Hi.
Hi, hi Leo. How are you?
Hi, hi everyone. Yeah, good, good.
Thank you so much for joining us at SME Digital Fest 2020 Online Summit. Very glad to have you on board and looking forward to see you sharing about TraitQuest and as well as the digitalization process of performance management. Thank you so much. We will be having 45 minutes and the last 15 minutes is for the questions. So we'll take in Q&A along the way. So if you want to break in between and taking the questions, do let me know. I'll guide you with it. And go ahead, all yours. Take it away.
Okay, thank you so much for the invitation. My session is pretty relaxed. I think if you have any question, just type in, and then of course, then we can compile it and we can look into it later. So feel free to actually ask as many as you can. I think this is a crucial time. So let's get started. I would like to share my screen. I just click share screen, right? Hello.
Yes, you can press share screen.
Okay. So everyone is looking at my screen now. Hello. Hi. All good on my screen? Okay, thank you so much. So today,
Yeah, we can see the screen.
yeah, because I believe most people cannot reply. Okay, so my agenda is pretty simple. We are a fund company, so my presentation will be more fun. So we start with the analogy of Lord of the Ring. The beginning, of course, you're looking at business impacts. The agenda will be what is after MOC, right? The movement or the movement control, and then of course the decisions, right? The climax, what do you do, and after that the end, the actions. So let's follow this journey, right? Okay, so business impacts, I believe that is pretty general. Everyone will have impact on sales and revenue. And next, of course, staff availability. We got constant chats, and also we answering emails, answering WhatsApp chat at middle of the night, especially during when they have extension, staff availability, how to pay and all that. So next would be supply chain, and lastly financial. So of course in my case I will not address sales revenue, supply chain, financial. For us, we are looking more into staff availability. So of course, I think this is pretty common. Global economy is going down. I think I don't have to talk about coronavirus more than most speakers will talk about it. But just a snapshot that this will be the impact that we're moving forward, and I think brace for the impact that's coming towards us. So work from home now becomes the new norm. I believe if you are a startup, a lot of startups are very common in addressing work from home. Even this is what we call flexible working arrangement. So moving forward, what would be like? What would you do if that continues longer? I think I don't know, just a speculation that if this continues longer for another 2 more weeks, what will happen? So government has come up with a lot of incentives, but what about people side? I think a lot of discussion was going on about IR 4.0, but we all know that we cannot get away with people. So people are still the core of each businesses. Regardless what business you are in, we still need talent to run, to operate, and to actually help the business to grow. So a little bit about myself. So I think the MC have, I don't know whether most people will do an introduction. So we specialize in organizational culture. Of course, digitalization is one of it. We have our solutions called TraitQuest. We also do gamification. We also do assessment, people audit. We specialize also in millennials and Generation Z, or some call it Zoom. All right, I think that's how this Zoom's name is. And also we are looking into transgenerational workforce because at this moment we have all four generations in a lot of organization. So culture becomes more and more important. So these are these are the things that we address here. So who is TraitQuest? We provide cloud solutions. Of course, we look into culture, organizational development, motivation, engagement. So all this at the end, of course, drives business. Most people may have a misconception about HR or human capital, but I think during these 2 weeks or even the coming 2 weeks, HR and human capital becomes more and more important. We suddenly realize most organization starts to call HR, starts to address HR more often, starts to look at HR for communication. So corporate communication now falls under HR, where you start to communicate what's important, what's next, what to do. So these are the areas that we specialize in. Of course, we are actually proud serving the market of digital HR, leadership, and organizational culture development. So these are some of our clients, past clients, and also current clients. So what are the top three most common solutions for Malaysia SME today? Based on our research, we found that, of course, these three areas are in place. A lot of discussion going on about business continuity plan. What if another disaster like this hit? What would be the plan? What is the disaster recovery? Of course, financial health check. I think those we have a lot of other people talk about it. Today, I would like to focus on human capital audit. So especially performance management. Human capital, also known as human resource, of course, we provide a better name. But when you talk about resource, it seems like a liability. When you talk about capital, it's an investment where you can invest in it and you expect a return. So we would like to position it differently. So the perception is different when you expect different results as well. So performance management methods. Famously, today we talk about OKR, objective key results. And of course, some organizations still goes into KPI. And also some organization has management by objective MBO. For the short session today, I will address KPI and OKR. So I will not address MBO. But there are other methods of performance management, such as digital engagement. I believe this time work from home, everyone's on their WhatsApp. Everyone is on Zoom or on any other digital engagement. So to most people, to most businesses, these are one of the way to manage performance. But bear in mind, sometimes these are not what we call recorded. These are not cases you want to build because WhatsApp chat is not that easy to track and trace. Of course, culture is one of it. When we talk about culture, I want to address that sometimes leadership determines the culture. We call it SLT, Senior Leadership Team. So these are the important areas that in performance management we have to address, because when you don't want the white elephant in the room where just you put something in place and no one's follow it, or no one is doing it, or no one is actually measuring it. And lastly, coaching and mentoring. These are especially important when it comes to this younger generation of workforce. In the past, you can say that today I don't want to use all this method. I just pay a certain amount of money. But you realize during this time, even this second phase of MCO, there are other options. So actually, I'm not going into the details. Your HR or even the MOHR website will address to it. But when you have a better culture, money is secondary. But when you don't have any culture, money is primary. So top 5 things to do in KPI. So what are KPIs? KPIs is pretty simple. Most of the names is called key performance indicator, where you address a performing, how would I know whether you're performing or not? So there are indicators that will address to the performance. But before you go into KPI, of course, most people in the sales will be very straightforward numbers. But when you look at a company as a whole, there are a lot of other divisions that supports. In this case, of course, when we say during the work from home, how do you address performance which are not sales oriented, which can be a support function, which can be a learning function. It could be a different function that supports the sales deliverable. So you want to map out your blueprint for the first, because then only you know what to set your parameters. Remember, if you just map out your blueprint, which is sometimes what we call a business plan, without setting parameters, you just have a direction, but there's no how to do it, how to go about it. So setting parameters also determines the rewards, and of course, if you want punishments, depending on culture and also the leaders, rewards and punishment should be used, but sparingly. So we recommend most of our clients, when you set your KPI, you need to know what are the KPIs you're setting, and you want to set it in a very balanced manner, which means it's not skewed towards only one of the important thing like sales, because functions like supporting sales deliverables, warehousing, or even depending on your industry, all are as equally important. And of course, secondly, setting parameters are equally important because it's a communication that you want to be clear. You want to communicate out with your team members because everybody will know. I remember we always have a saying, clarity is power. When it's not clear, everybody is just second guessing. Sometimes we want to be as clear as we can. I know it's not easy, but once you follow the process, it becomes easier. Sometimes some clients say this can be very confusing. Take for example, everyone has a New Year resolution to lose weight. But if you lose weight just by saying losing weight, you never set the parameter, how much I want to lose, by when, and what are the rewards and punishments. Rarely people will achieve it. Reason being because there is no clear path. So parameters is very important. So to show us a clear path to reach our goals. And third of all, of course, we want to see a dashboard and summary. So I have an example here would be website traffic. So you want to measure it regularly. You want to track it as well. Remember, setting KPI without measuring and tracking, just like your New Year resolution. You want to lose weight, and the next year, another New Year resolution as the same. So you want to have a proper measurement to measure the changes, to measure the ups and downs. And all this can be quantifiable. So when we talk about KPI, everything has to be quantifiable. If you don't quantify it, it's hard to measure it, okay? The fourth part is most important for most businesses, is called making performance improvement. So when you have a performance management, it's a step-by-step process. Of course, for a smaller SME company, you can skip the process. You can go straight to those who are relevant to you. But the overall scheme of process is the same. You need to have a baseline. You need to set goals to allow you to make adjustment and improvement. Back to the losing weight analogy again. If today you are at 67 kg or 60 kg, you want to lose a certain weight, then you can measure your progress. But without setting a baseline or goal, there's nowhere to go. You are neither improving or you are neither going anywhere. You're just staying stagnant. So improve your KPIs and also deliverable. And of course, most importantly, ensure your communication is clear. Once it's clear, once it's communicated, then you can manage the expectation. We saw a lot of our clients having problems with their team because the communications are not clear. Give you a good example today. If you say, I want to go to Singapore for exhibitions, you never even mention what is it for, why you're doing it, So how do you ensure your team knows what you're thinking? So communication clear is very important, especially when you want to manage the expectations of your team members. So quoting Simon Sinek, I think is very relevant in this case. Understanding the why and sharing the why is important because first, of course, motivation. Then when it comes to the how and the what. Normally, for most of us, we make the mistake by going what first, then how maybe, but we never even share why. So a lot of times people are confused. Back to the resolution, New Year resolution about losing weight again, right? Why people want to lose weight? If the motivation drive is not strong, people will not stick to it. We will not follow through it. So even setting KPI without having considering this factor, most of the KPI becomes what we call goal shift, right? It's just like your goal keep on shifting. You never achieve it in the 3 months time, then you shift it again or you adjust the parameters. So it's important to communicate clearly and also understand, communicate the why to your team. So of course, digitalize means once you set everything offline, it could be done not necessarily on the system, could be done on paper, on pen, but at least you have a system, then you can move it into a digital solution. And digital solution is important, especially today. When we talk about remote working, remember there is a saying, what gets measured gets done. If you never measure, you never put a system in place and you don't track it, of course, things will be just 1 week, pass by 1 week and another week, then it comes after MOC. So once you set your KPIs and you want to include all the deliverables, or we call it key result areas, and of course, there's a tracking mechanism, there's a storing data. These are important. Of course, today, a lot of our clients will have a lot of interesting and creative ways to do it. You can do it on the Google Doc. You can do it anywhere. But remember, it's about tracking because we'll come to it later. So of course, we also have our learning and onboarding system. Why did I put this in? Because as a company, when you set KPI, you have to understand sometimes your KPI may not be realistic. So sometimes you want someone, to do a leap of improvement in their performance, but they may not have that skills. They may not have that knowledge. Even during hiring, we want someone to do wonders and miracles. We always know deep down there are limitations. So learning and onboarding and making a very clear path is very important for them to reach and achieve the target that you set. So now comes to OKR. So OKR is an improved version of KPI. Of course, I know that most of you in startups will know it from Google, Zappos. OKR is very simple and effective because it's very straightforward. There's lesser process. There's also lesser quantifying and measurement, but you still need to set the parameters. OKR, of course, we call it objective key results. So what is an objective? So objective is what I want to accomplish. All business owners or even head of department, you have something to accomplish in your quarterly or monthly target. So setting your target and objective has to be very clear. So of course, here we use a SMART analogy. You have to be specific. It has to be measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So I've set some examples there. Remember to set it as clear as you can because we always want to manage expectation. Most relationship or communication fail because of the expectation. When you don't manage expectation well, there's what we call you think, I think. You think this way, I think that the other way. So always make it clear. You can say that it's very micro, very detail oriented, but it's best to make it clear. And once it's clear, then both of us or you and your team members will know it very easily. So managing expectation is important. After you have set the objective, of course, you want to talk about what we call IDP, Individual Development Plan, career path, or even connecting their roles to a larger picture. What does it mean is because everyone works in or contribute in your organization for a reason. One of the reasons is career path and learning. So individual development plan is important, and you want to link it back to the objective. So the objective of the company is to achieve something. The objective of an individual is also to achieve something. So this has to come hand in hand. So some best practices is, of course, when you say objective key result, the keyword is key. So not to have too many objectives, because then now no one knows what to focus. And at least 50% should be bottom up. Bottoms up approach means this has to come from your team. Again, when you want to apply objective key results, OKR, one of the requirement, you need your team to start thinking. A lot of organizations made the mistake of their teams are not thinking, the boss is thinking. Normally we say leaders has to set the objective for the company, then the key result comes from your team, your head of departments or your mid manager or even your executive. When it's coming up bottoms up, the key result deliverable will be more convincing, and also they have an agreeable verbal agreement. So going back to my analogy of, for instance, going to Singapore for an exhibition, so their key result is they have to suggest, they have to set their target, what to achieve there, what can you bring back, and what is the parameter set. So the responsibility is on them, the accountability is there. If it's the other way around, top to bottom approach, which means it's you say, you want me to do this, then I do, but doesn't mean I want to do this. So hence, the individual development plan, a career plan is important to come hand in hand. So when I say rewards and punishment, rewards not necessarily means monetary. It can also mean a certain type of reward that satisfy their needs. We will come to that shortly. What gets measured gets done. So this is an example of OKR life cycle. Remember, just like you're losing weight, you have to measure regularly. 1 year once will not ensure an improvement. So you need to do it regularly, doing what we call check-ins, either coaching, mentoring, follow-ups, make sure that they know they are clear. And also if they come about any problems that they face, they have someone to help. Sometimes some companies will create what we call a buddy system as well, so they don't have to do it alone. So of course, as an organizational culture development advocates, we always advise you to hire based on the person. Don't hire based on the job. What I meant by that, sometimes someone may be doing the job right, but people are not actually able to gel in with the culture or with the organization. Remember, mindset is more important than skill set, then only comes to tool set. That's why in my sharing today, I actually gave you the mindset first, not even the skill set and the tool set, because we realize from time to time, the mindset is not there, there's no point wasting time. So this is just a snapshot on how some of our solutions work, right? So after all that, after the movement control, what options you need to know, start looking into your culture. I think culture is pretty important today. If you do hiring, and if you do exit interview, or if you talk to any of your team members, more and more are actually looking this as a priority. They will, even during interview, they will ask, what sort of culture is here? What sort of culture that your leaders are adopting? What is their management style? So for simplicity, I actually come up with 6 types of culture. Of course, there are more, but these are the 6 that's very common. So first we go to pragmatic. Pragmatic cultures are customers first. So what customers first means, what customer wants you will give it. So there's lesser structure, which means we are more flexible in this culture. Customer wants this discount, wants this customization, you do it. So remember, there's no good culture or bad culture. It's how you behave. Because a bad culture can be good sometimes in a different scenario, in a different circumstances. So next we go into tough guy culture. As the name suggests, tough guy culture means the boss is very tough, micromanage, all right, checking constantly, SOP system. Sometimes they also put what we call three strikes out, just like in football. When you have red cards, out you go. So tough guy culture is good when it comes to handling disaster. Example, some of the very tough situations like the COVID-19 now, China would be one of the very tough guy culture, right? Lockdown means lockdown. There is no funny game going around. So it's important. This sort of culture is important in different circumstances. So remember, no one set of culture is good or bad, but depending on your scenario. But culture comes from leadership. So the next one, we look at normative. What is normative culture? Corporates. Normally, when we say corporates, MNCs, these are very normal, which means it's very dry, it's regulated. There are a lot of guidelines, there are a lot of policies, everything is set in place. Your career plans is set in place. It's a very safe environment, very stable, very secure. Okay. The next one is academy. Academic culture is very learning based, as the name suggests. People who are in academic culture are highly skilled. All right. So when you deal with highly skilled, academic culture talent, you need to have a very structured system. So it's different from normative. Academy has to have structure to learn, to grow. Onboarding. I need to know from day 1 what do I do, day 10 what do I do, day 30 what do I do. So these are the very academic culture. Fortress culture is all about members, more all about numbers. So fortress culture means I protect very well. So this sort of culture has very high turnover, high termination. They adopt what we call hire fast, fire fast. So people in this sort of culture has very low sense of security. But of course, the economy, these sort of businesses will achieve their numbers, but there's no proper what we call good culture again, right? The last one is called club culture. Club culture is very intense, strict in hiring, which means they will filter, they will make sure that people are very competent. And normally club cultures are in, police force, in some of those very structured where they want highly skilled people. But normally these are frequent hard work will be rewarded. So it's hardworking culture, people work very hard inside. Okay. So there are other possible cultures, but in Malaysia, what we saw most often is they like to go into what we call high performance culture. High performance culture has 3 distinctive uniqueness, which is right fit, and of course is very objective based and is digitalized. So understanding core culture is a key for your organization, because when it comes to this sort of what we call younger generations, I know it's bad to keep on emphasizing this, but this is the challenge what we saw from our clients mostly faced. So in other organizations currently, when we talk about not out of Malaysia, we look at the future of workplace, we look at culture fitness, purpose. So you will hear this a lot. Employees today wants to have more purpose, doing things more sense of purpose. Retention of talents is important. If you are in a hire fast and fire fast culture, your talent pool will keep changing, keep shifting. It's a challenge because there's no continuation. things are always has a what we call a cutoff. Example, in marketing, you will see the marketing coming up with different identity, different branding, because people are keep changing. So remember, of course, if you want to hire right, hire slow, then the talent that will actually help you to build a better culture. So most common concerns faced today, where boss always says staff not working hard enough. These are the things we thought you guys would like to understand. Acknowledge it, because these are the things that you'll be thinking, but you may not agree. But these are the things that's affecting your company. So a talent cost. What is the cost like? Somehow at the end of the presentation, I will also address that a lot of businesses today will actually say layoff is one of their options. Remember, hiring, maintaining is equally costly. Of course, we want to cut costs. This is a very straightforward, inevitable strategy. We can go into that in another, different session. But just take it as a important reminder, is actually even more expensive. So these are some suggestions that we always ask the SME to look into it. When you talk about when you want to lay off, to cut costs now, after MOC, after the economy coming back up, how do you actually start looking into recovering? Business revenue, financial is important, so is people. So please take note on that. You want to address all this from the start, because whoever there is left in your company will determine your company direction. So a simple hierarchy of needs. These are some of the tools that we always use our clients. So the climax decision. I know that most of you are considering it, thinking about it, looking into it. Who to go, who to let go, who to stay on, and how to go on. So top 5 things to discover in your talent. If you have already started KPI, good. If not, please start, because it will be a very important point if you want to do a layoff, if you want to do a retrenchment exercise, or if you want to do a different strategy approach to cut your costs. In actual fact, just a little bit room of advertising. Next week, we have our session to talk about layoff. And of course, you want to do it legally. You want to do it with gracefully, or even with all paperwork in place. So if you want to do all that, this is important to be in place. Okay, I shall not touch more about that. So continuous KPI change or job rotation is important. You want to make sure that talent do more under new KPI, right? Create new KPI, learn about new areas, doing it more in other areas. Hire happy talent at first place. Don't just hire for the job, like I have done earlier explanation. You want to look at positive engagement culture, right? Hire smart, this is the keyword that we put here. Challenge and quest, these are just some activities. Remember, this is after the MCO. People coming back to work, morale are low, right? You have done your exercise of layoff or some restructuring. So things are back to normal, but everything else is not normal. So please look into this. Create creative rewarding system to discover their inner talent. When during this time of MCO, there are a lot of new talent being discovered. Some people may be starting to do more digital work. So the challenge is, do you want to continue that, or do you want to go back to your normal self after this MCO? Of course, these are some of the available solutions that we provide. If this is something that you are interested to start on, to understand more, and to also do a diagnostic. So remember, always when you have a problem in your company, you can use process to address it. You can use financial to address it, but there is one part is always about people. So now understanding the core problem of your organization is important. You want to know what is the root problem. So diagnostic it will help to let you know what area to address. Of course, I understand this may not be the main concern now for most business owners, but should be at the top of your mind to think about it after MCO comes back. Okay, and if you want to recover, you want to set up another new team, who should be in and who you want to get them to actually do that. So again, this is just our slight solutions to look into. So the end, what's next you need to know? Recap. So these are the, earlier on I have shared with you what we call the 555. So these are simple 5 things in KPIs you can do, simple 5 things of OKRs you can do, and simple 5 things in human capital you can actually look into. Because this will affect your business and people strategy. When you talk about market scaling, increasing revenue, project optimization. So I shall not go into details on all that. These are just some of it to let you know the importance of the money part, how our solutions can actually help you save cost, save time, reduce attrition rate, digitalization, future business direction. So question of the day, have you started all the things that I've mentioned? In actual fact, this presentation slide was prepared months ago during China hit COVID-19. So it's even more relevant in Malaysia today. So summary of the day, the beginning, business impact, the MOC or MCO, the decision, and the action. So of course, we were told to actually, and during this time, we have run some CSR program as well. So we are offering some diagnostic intelligence, we call it DI. So at the same time, you see a snapshot that we are also sharing all the available documents, templates, even some steps, guide how to do to some of our, community, we call it. So if you're interested, you can always drop a message on your email, you want to PM, or you want to reach out to us. We can send you all this. So this is free of charge. So these are our total solutions. We look into recruit, retain, recognitions, and relearn. Some case studies for some very traditional SMEs, even constructions, main cons, subcons, bigger organizations. So a little bit of advertising. So next week we're running our own Zoom webinar, layoff, decision, and leadership. So we have collaborated with MECA. MECA is the IR organizations. So you want to make sure that your layoff is legal. You don't want, those people that you fire off, come back and bite you after the MOC or MCO. So thank you so much. Drop us your email or, however you want to reach out to us. Then we can send you all these toolkits or documentation. So I'm done. Back to you then.
Thank you, Leo, for sharing your insights. I think there's no questions so far, but since you have passed their contact details, your contact details, they'll be able to contact you if there is any help they need from you. And you see the chat box, right? If you want, you can also send your contact details at the chat box, so it's easier for them to click and go ahead since they are in the Zoom call already. So thank you so much for your sharing your inputs into this topic, especially during this MCO and COVID-19. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Exabytes. Grow your business online.